Okay, we can start now.
Patrick,
Hello.
nice to see you.
You too.
After such long time.
Long lost friend.
Yeah, I want to say hello to Taiwan.
Hi Taiwan.
So very nice to see you after so many years. You know what you've been doing, and do you want to tell Taiwan, introduce about yourself, what you do, your music, and
Yeah. Well, my name is Patrick Wolf, and I'm 29 years old, and I've been making albums for 10 years. And I started out leaving home at 16 because I really wanted to go and live a life full of adventure and songwriting, and so I was very lucky to since I was like 12 or 13 be involved with a lot of performance art and amazing kind of revolutionary artists and musicians and this whole kind of exciting London life since I was about 12 or 13 actually. So I was trained from quite an early age to be brave and adventurous, and so by the time my first album came out I was 18, 19 years old. And
was that first album when you were 18?
yeah, it was.
Really?
Yeah.
So
well, my first EP was when I was 18 years old. And do you remember
we met when you were 17.
Yeah, when I was
years
17
old.
I met Mei-Hui, and she asked me to be part of her party she was throwing in London, and she took me to Paris.
Yes, we went to Karl Lagerfeld's party.
Yeah, we did. We were in Karl Lagerfeld's house, and she introduced me to a musician called Capital K, and Capital K liked my singing in the band, and
we all thought you were, big talent for the future.
Well, you were a great support in that time, and you introduced me to Christian Capital K, and Capital K ended up releasing my first album, Lycanthropy, and I guess that was just the beginning. Life was already an adventure, but at that point life just went really crazy, and I've been on the road touring around the world for about 10 years now. Yeah.
And it's all started from East London, isn't it?
Yeah.
So tell us about the whole East London influence your work since then and until now.
Well, at the beginning, I think when I was a teenager, everything existed around Soho, and it was still coming out of this days of Lee Bowery and Soho when the landlords hadn't taken over the rent and made everyone move east, and basically London kind of as a exciting breeding ground for art, fashion and music all went east because it was a lot cheaper to live there and to make work there. So all the artists and the new young artists were coming out of East London. So when I was about 17, 18, the shift went east, and so basically there was constantly so many designers and venues and warehouses and people constantly creating and doing parties that were collaborating between music and art and fashion, which is always in New York and across any city. That's when all those three things come together, then there's a lot of change in culture because you've got everything, all the arts coming together in one space where it's easy to work and create and to push things forward. So I would say, about 10 years ago that was a good starting point, a good springboard for a lot of designers and musicians and artists. Yeah. And
now when you come back to here, how do you see the change?
Well, I actually I fell out of love with East London for a long time. I moved back down to South London where I was born, and I found it quite a refuge because I think after that really exciting first few years when people are genuinely and honestly coming together to make life interesting, make the city interesting, then slowly comes in people with different ideas about they kind of manipulate that or try and get money out of that circumstance or put the rents up, or people just come to be cool rather than actually to create. So I kind of and also with the touring and the travelling and the 10 years, there's been little time that I've actually been able to engage with London, and so but when I have it, I kind of start to avoid East London. So but I lived in Hackney Wick when I was making the album The Magic Position, which was my third album, and so after all the touring I rented a little cottage on the side of a bell tower, and we rented it off the Church of England and from a vicar, and we lived really cheap there, and on one floor I had my music studio, on the other floor my partner Ingrid had an art studio, and we took the living room as our bedroom, and so we had art and music in one house, and she turned it into a gallery, and we lived there for about 3 years. So I would say and we went to all the punk squat parties in Hackney, and then we go to the rave or the big rave warehouse parties afterwards, and it was a great time for me. I think then there was a resurgence a little, like about 5 years ago, where in 2007, where it felt maybe more towards Far East, like Hackney Wick, but you could just go to a party for about 2 days, you know, and spend no money and just dance to great music, and I loved that period. I would say that I had 2 great East London moments in those. It was like way back at around 2000, and then later on about 2007, you know. Yeah, and now it feels for me very civilized East London. It never did. I feel so safe here. I'm almost very confused. Like I feel that I could go out in high heels and fishnet tights and no one would shout at me, you know. And it was almost the thrill of East London was that you were rubbing up against so many different, you know, all the prostitutes in Brick Lane and then all the hardcore, you know, like Cockney bricklayers, and there was always so much. It's become a bit gentrified now.
Remember when you used to cycle to Brick Lane and they trace you?
What's that? They chase us, yeah.
And they trace Rob.
But that was almost the thrill of going out on a Friday night. I thought it was really great back then. So, but now it's easier, and you know, I think it's not really the place I would say now for the starting of careers, you know. But I would say that it's or of cultural movements or anything, but then I also feel that London is waiting for that new injection of adrenaline and hunger to make something new. It comes in waves of like five years, you know, 10 years. London is always churning out great, wonderful movements, but I feel that it has to go down before it comes back up again.
Dalston, now maybe it's will move up to Dalston now.
Yeah. But I still feel that it's around a year away before the next big thing happens here. Yeah.
And talk about your fashion, your style. Remember, you were the very first one who's got the most eccentric look back to that time.
Well,
and you know, and now all the kids are following it, all that kind of a look, you know. But it was really original and creative. You always made your own outfit and customize. Yeah. We went, you know, go to all the charity shop to find pieces, and do you want to talk about?
Sure. Well,
style,
it's funny when
fashion.
people remember that period because me and my friend Fanny, we were raised by this group of people who lived and worked in Taboo and the Blitz and Kinky Kalinki, all these great new romantic clubs, you know, where their life revolved around making and creating outfits and looks that had never been seen before. And so these people raised us up when we were teenagers, and so by the time we were like 16 or 17, we were told, don't go to any shops, make all your own clothes, even if you don't know how to sew, just get a piece of fabric you like and wrap it around yourself, and
blanket curtains.
You must just work with whatever you don't have, you know, and the little that you have, and so we would just really, in a way we wanted to impress our mentors and our parents, you know, Matthew Glamore and you know, we were still living in the spirit of Lee Barry as if he was still alive in London. So we didn't believe in anything could shock anybody, or nothing was shockable to us. So nudity and shaving off your eyebrows or
makeups,
huge padded shoulder pads that would knock everyone over in the nightclub. Like we really were. I always hate this, like, you know, we were original, but we strive to be original, and I think we really were, you know, definitely, and we started a band then, and we were
Maison Criminal.
Yeah. And it was a time in London again where I feel it's a little bit like now. London becomes very gentrified before it comes anarchy, before it comes rebellious, and this was a time when we were.
没有，可以继续。
Yeah. 你停一下。